Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting of Monday, December 17th, 2018. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Okay. Albertson?
Here.
Bueller? Here. Danforth?
Here.
Lallam? Here. Manti? Here. Roby?
Here.
Solom?
Here.
Thorson?
Here.
Vilhauer?
Here.
Y?
Present.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I'd like to say happy birthday to Councilman Dan Albertson. I don't think we're going to sing, but we wish him the happy birthday. Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. And before I get a motion, I would like to move items 8, 9, and 10 off of the main agenda to the consent agenda. And those are the items which we discussed at the committee meeting regarding 3rd Avenue Northwest and the 3rd Avenue Northwest Bridge. So with that, I'd look for a motion to approve the amended consent agenda. So moved. Motion by Lallam, second by Manti. Any discussion? Councilman Vilhauer?
I've got one question. Under G, when we say consideration, what I mean, are we accepting the bid, or what are we actually doing there?
We're approving the bids.
We are. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, there was no discussion concerning it. I mean, we're okay with it.
Nothing was out of the ordinary. It was all within budget. And
okay, but a consideration does mean approving it then.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. The second item is public comment, and this is the time set aside for anyone who would like to say something about something not on the agenda to come forward. Seeing none, we'll move on. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Motion by Vilhauer.
Second.
Second by Albertson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 4 is application for a new retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license to Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce, doing business as Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce, 1300 9th Avenue Southeast, Suite number 99. I will look for a motion for approval, and then we'll open the public hearing. We have a motion by Bueller and a second by Manti, and the public hearing is open, and if anyone would like to speak about this issue, please come forward and state your name into the microphone, please.
Good evening. My name is Tim Sheehan. Hang on. Just getting over a throat condition, so. I do have a prepared statement I want to read to you just to kind of give you an idea where we're at and hopefully answer some questions prior to that you may have already. So in early September of this year, several of us were on a conference call with the mall owners, and I had suggested if we could set this up, would they be open to having bands and other entertainment periodically at the mall during the colder months? I specifically asked if we could make this happen, would they be okay if people could buy a beer and walk the hallways of the mall? The owners were all on board, but I did follow up with more detailed conversation afterwards. My second conversation was with Julie from Senior Max's about my plan and asked if she would be okay with us selling beer, and she would be able to retain all the food and liquor sales. She was in agreement and liked the idea and to draw people out to the mall. Godfather's was also in agreement, and they set up a table to sell pizzas during the December event. We've had 2 Thursday Night Lives events at the mall, and our next event will be January 3rd with Shades of Air taking the stage from 6 to 9 p.m. February 7th, we will move Thursday Night Live to the Watertown Event Center as part of the first ever farm show booth and vendor appreciation night with Canyon Cowboys performing. And then back to the mall March, April, and May. Our first order of business to make this happen was to get the mall space approved by the Board of Adjustments to allow beer sales in the mall. That approval was granted on December 6th. Other options to have beer and wine at the mall for 3 hours a month, keeping in mind, or actually the other options, besides us having this, for 3 hours a month, keeping in mind the rent, staff, prep time, insurance, and cleanup is not a real appealing to many people. The option one is to have an existing licensed business transfer their beer license out there for those 3 hours. The second option would have somebody else buy a licensed staff and sell the beer. The third option, which we are presenting here, is the chamber apply for a license, keep it at the mall all year round. In the event we get rained out this summer, we can move the event inside at the mall. Our paid staff as well as board volunteers make this a good option for us, and we already have the required liquor liability insurance. We plan on featuring Watertown Brewing Company beers and Dempsey's products at all Thursday Night Live events. So hope I've addressed your questions and concerns, and I will stick around for any questions you might have.
Thank you. And I don't think you stated your name is Tim Sheehan from
I'm
the
Tim
Chamber
Sheehan with
of
the Watertown
Commerce.
Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. Yes. It was bad.
Okay, is there anyone else that wants to speak about this issue? Okay, I'll leave it open just so we can have some back and forth. Councilman Dam, or Roby? Sorry.
I'll be recusing myself on this issue.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyone else have any questions for Tim? Or comments?
Tim, what kind of attendance have you been having out at the Thursday Night Lives? Is it growing, or are people getting?
Well, our first November one, we had Mogan's Heroes, and they draw a little older crowd, which this summer was our biggest crowd, but our lowest beer sales, which was fine because we didn't have the ability to sell beer at the mall this November. December was My Favorite Headache with Tom Beednell, and that one was the same night as the other concert series. A lot of people came out for that 6 to 7, and then they left. Had that been not on that night, we probably would have had a couple hundred. I think we had close to 125, 150 out in the December one. Yep. January 3rd, we have Shades of Air. It's a little younger crowd. We hope to draw a few more people out there. Of course, the mall merchants were doing cartwheels. They just love to see the activity out there.
Yeah. Yep, and it's fun.
It is.
Anyone else want to speak at the public hearing? I will go ahead and close that. Council questions? Councilman Lallam?
I sat through the Board of Adjustment meeting when they were talking to you guys on this. Didn't seem to be that there was any kind of an issue with it. It's no different than really putting it at any other business or moving it to, like, say, the event center or the extension office. It's just you guys would actually carry the license versus somebody else. So on that aspect, I didn't have any issues, and they didn't either. I don't think there was a lot of discussion, but I think everyone was in favor once they had all the questions
Certainly.
answered.
I think it's great that you're featuring the local breweries.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice.
We'd feature more if we had them.
Yeah. Anyone else? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you.
Item number 5 is the 2018 budget supplements, and they're A and B. I'll look for 2 motions on these, and we'll start with ordinance number 18-26, the supplemental appropriations. Is there a motion second for approval? Moved by Lallam, second by Roby. And Kristen, you want to talk about this a little bit?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second reading of the budget supplement for 2018. I did go over it last meeting and kind of covered some of the key points. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but there is no changes from the first reading. So.
All right, Councilwoman Billhauer?
Kristen, for sake of those that may just be tuning in now, and for those of us that don't have real long memories, the one that jumps out is a $275,000 for the 212 fund. Can you just tell us what that is?
Yep, the $275,000 in the capital improvement fund is actually a combination of the library boiler and also the boiler and HVAC for the Watertown Event Center. So that's what that is for.
Good question. Anything else? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. And B is the grants revenue and expenditures automatic supplements. Look for motion second.
So move.
Moved by Albertson, second by Lallam. Kristen, want to explain these, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This part is actually the grants that come in. These do not require to be put on an ordinance for 2 readings. They are actually considered automatic supplements because the revenue came in as well as the expenditure. So what this does is it ups our expenditure budgets to match the revenues for those grants. So if there's any questions on those, otherwise, pretty straightforward. The majority of it is for the police, and well, it is all for the police and fire, and it's for training and some equipment purchases.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 6 is ordinance number 18-28, revising and amending certain provisions of Title 10 to adopt the 2018 version of the International Fire Code and to make other miscellaneous changes related to fire protection and prevention. I'll look for a motion and second for approval. Moved by Mantee, second by Lallam. And I know we have the fire department here. I see Chip Primus, the fire marshal. Chip, would you please give us a summary of what we're doing here?
Hi, everybody. Thanks. Chip Primus, Fire Marshal. Basically, what we do is every year, or every 3 years, we adopt. Every 3 years, the ICC comes up with a new code. ICC does the building code and the fire code. As you can see, last meeting, you guys adopted the IBC, and we're in turn doing the IFC fire codes. ICC makes codes every 3 years. They come with a new set. We always go every 6 years and adopt, just due to the expense of adopting the code and all the work. And we usually every 3 years they come up with something weird, and then 6 years they take that back. So it's kind of mellowed out, and it's fortunate that we do it like this. So, and we did do some changes in some verbiage, as you can see in the Title 10 itself.
Anything you want to point out as being relatively substantial?
No. Everything looks good to me. If you guys have any, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, good enough. Anyone have any questions for Chip? No questions. All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. That was too easy, Chip.
Thanks.
Item number 7 is the first reading of ordinance number 18-29, amending section 1.0502 of the revised ordinances of the City of Watertown regarding membership requirements of the airport board. And I put this on here because we have had a member on the airport board who does not live within the city limits of Watertown for some time. And then I actually appointed another one, and before I did that, I brought this up to the council and pointed it out and asked if there were any qualms with doing this. The ordinance states that the people all have to reside within the city limits, but our airport serves far more than just the people who reside within the city limits. It serves our whole region, so it seems appropriate that we would allow 2 members at least to be from outside the city limits, and we limited it to a 35-mile radius of the Watertown Regional Airport. So that's how it reads. Is still 3 members have to be residents of the city, and 2 need to reside within 35 miles. They could all 5 be within the city limits, and that would be just fine. As it is now, we have 2 members which live outside the city limits but within 35 miles. Any questions or comments? Councilman Vilhauer?
Do you want to explain where the 35 miles comes from?
The 35 miles matches our personnel policy, and that's what we use for city employees. So it seemed reasonable. We agonized over what that should be. Took a while. Figured we didn't want to redo that whole discussion. So it is kind of random, though. Councilman Danforth?
I'm all in favor of this. This is a real niche asset that we have in our community, and the people that best serve it are those most familiar with aviation. So, wherever we can go, the 35 miles to get the best people to help us manage that, I think that's the way to go.
Right, and I'm really thankful for our highly qualified airport board. We've had some issues with airport service and contracts, and it's really great to have those people who know what they're talking about as backup advisors. So this is just a first reading. Anybody else have any questions?
I do have a comment, Mayor,
Sure.
if I might.
Councilman Bueller?
No, I would just like to say that I think we have a really strong, qualified group right now. I'm very impressed with the folks that are taking the time and putting the energy into helping this be a success. Because a lot of things coming up, a lot of things down the road we got to take a close look at. So we're fortunate to have those folks and what they're doing for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, moving on. We've moved 8, 9, and 10 to the consent agenda, so they're already approved. Item number 11 is renewal of the airport liability insurance policy for 2019 and authorization for the finance officer to issue a special check for the premium. I'll look for a motion and second for approval. Moved by Vilhauer, second by Lallam. And Kristen, will you please explain this?
Thank you, Mayor. This comes before the council every year for the renewal of the general liability insurance at the airport. Everything is pretty much right on with how it was last year. This matches all the coverage. The premium amount will be the $5,485. We have not elected to take the terrorism risk insurance. We've never taken that in the past. So this policy does not include that. If the council would like that, then I think I'd have to have that in the motion. But otherwise, we've never had that in the past.
All right. Councilman Lallam?
Kristen, is there any major changes on this? Did it go up in price or anything of that nature?
No, there was no significant change. Nope, it's pretty much right on.
Why would we not take the terrorism risk insurance?
We never have taken it, and I reached out just to ask kind of what the thought was. And the scope of it, there's like 3 primary things that have to take place for that to even kind of happen. There's a bunch of different restrictions on it for that coverage to really be used. So that's why we've never taken it. Now, like I said, if you'd want to. The 3 primary items is the act must occur on U.S. soil, and the terrorism must be carried out by a known terrorist group, and that the U.S. government must declare it an act of terrorism. All 3.
Is that locally or that'd have to be in Watertown then?
What
For
do you-
that, that would be just in general. If some, oh.
Yeah, and then I do think too, there's a, in addition, there's like 4 different things. It has to be in excess of 5 million, and it's, I think it's just that we were told that it's, for the coverage to apply, it's kind of a narrow, so the city's never taken it. If you did want to, that is, I think, $549. So.
Councilman Vilhauer?
A couple of questions or a few questions, Kristen. Is this the same company that we've utilized in the past?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if it makes any difference, but under additional interests, what does Sun Country Airlines, why are they named as an additional insured in this policy?
They actually had to provide, it was I don't know, maybe Matt can help with this, or I don't know. We were actually requested by the insurance company to provide in our agreement, we actually gave them the agreement with them, showing that they have their own coverage. So, yeah.
But I guess I'm.
Wasn't that affected when they ran charters out of here?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then last question, Kristen.
Yeah.
On the second page, under the marketing summary, look at the quotes that we received. QBE Aviation declined to offer terms this year due to operations of the named insured. Any idea what that was all about?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 12 is consideration of second amendment to lease for space leased to McKeever's Full Line, Full Service Vending at the Watertown Regional Library. And I will look for a motion second for approval, and then we'll talk about this. I have a motion from Mantee and a second from Albertson. And Dee Dee, our library director, is here, and hopefully she can explain about this.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Good evening, everyone. So this is the second amendment to the lease. The original lease, there were 3 vending machines that were at the library. That was reduced to 2 in 2008. Reduced to 1. And then this is to have a second vending machine at the library for coffee. So we've had a lot of requests from patrons. It was in our community survey to have a cafe space, and we were able to obtain funding for a water line through the Friends of the Library. So thank you, Friends of the Library, for doing that. And so this is just the amendment to allow that second machine to come in place.
Okay, great. Any questions?
Do we get any revenue from?
We do, and that's, it was increased from $17 a month to $24 a month in this agreement. So we'll receive that quarterly from McKeever's.
But as far as the product sold, we don't get any revenue from that product?
No, it's not at this point. It's just for the square footage and for the utilities.
Any other questions? We're going to look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Dee Dee.
So drop in for some coffee and a
Yeah.
nice book. Thanks.
All right, the next item on the agenda is old business. And for your information, I have appointed the finance officer. As mayor, I've appointed the finance officer as the entity administrator for the federal system for award management, or SAM. And it's not something that requires a council action. If I don't appoint someone, it's me. So I appointed Kristen. Is there any other old business? Kristen has some.
Yeah. Mayor, sorry. Matt and I and Heath were discussing, and to Glenn's question regarding the consideration one, we will need action on G of the consent agenda.
Okay.
For F, it's kind of spelled out in the documentation, but the one for the police patrol vehicles isn't real clear. So I think what we will do is ask for action to award it to Watertown Ford as the low bidder, just because the documentation wasn't real specific.
Okay,
So-
is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Vilhauer, second by Y. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Kristen. Always best to be safe. Is there any other old business? Any new business? Seeing none, are there any liaison member reports? Nope. We do have a reason to go into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2 for the purpose of contract negotiations. And we need to consult with our legal counsel on this. And we do expect to take some action when we come out. So I'll look for a motion and second for approval. Moved by Bueller, second by Lallam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries, and we're in executive session.